May 1991. The first thing I have to do in this video is apologize. I misspoke in the last video of this series, and I would never want to mislead you fine people. So I'm still at Bowling Green at this point, maybe finishing up my first year, and in the last video, I said that in my second semester at Bowling Green State University, I had all A's except for one class in which I got a C, and I said that was the only class that I always studied for. Something like that. That is not accurate. What I should have said is the class in which I got a C. Every other class I got an A, but the class in which I got a C is the class I never skipped. I went to every single class, still got a C. Somehow all the other classes I got an A. And I think this might be when I took philosophy of religion, and I just stopped going after the midterm. And I still got an A in that class. Excuse me. I'm a little dry. Gonna drink some Mountain Dew. Still desperately trying to get them as a sponsor. Or at least to send me some free Mountain Dew. So yeah, I know that's not important, but I wanted something to talk about before I dive into the books. I think we have a great mix of stuff here. Excuse me, 4 nonfiction books this time, and then all sorts of other crazy stuff. So I guess we can jump in. So the first book that I read in May of 1991 was Gumshoe, Reflections in a Private Eye by Josiah Thompson. And so apparently Mr. Thompson was a philosophy professor at Harvard and took a 10-year sabbatical. But he became a private investigator in San Francisco. And this is that story. Basically, it's anecdotes from his time as an apprentice. And I assume he eventually, I don't remember, but I'm assuming he eventually got his full license. So anecdotes about cases he worked on, mixed with, of course, philosophical musings, because he was a philosophy professor. This is the kind of thing I like to read, mixing things that I'm interested in. Philosophy, you're going to see a lot eventually. It's going to take a while. We're going to get to the pop culture and philosophy books. You're going to see a lot of that. But mixing philosophy and private eyes. It's pretty cool. Next up, another nonfiction book, completely different. Bugs Bunny, 50 Years and Only One Gray Hair by Joe Adamson. And that's hair, H-A-R-E, of course. And this is just essentially a history of Bugs Bunny. Filled with illustrations, but, it's the influences that went into creating the character, writers, illustrators or animators, directors, just the full, 50-year history at the time of Bugs Bunny. And I'm a huge Warner Brothers cartoon fan, love Bugs and Daffy and all the rest. Excuse me, more so than the Disney house characters, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, those guys. I've always said that you can easily gauge a person's personality by simply asking if they prefer Warner Brothers or Disney. Or you could specifically say Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse. I'm a Bugs Bunny guy. But very interesting book. All right, next up, we have some fiction. This is Everybody's Favorite Duck by Gahan Wilson. And this is a Sherlock Holmes parody. And it goes all out. I don't know if this is his first try at a prose novel. Because, of course, Gahan Wilson's known more as a cartoonist, I think. Creepy cartoons and stuff. But this has just pastiches, would that be the way to say it, of Holmes, Watson, Moriarty, Fu Manchu, just tons of different characters. It's wild, over the top, crazy, almost an airplane or Naked Gun kind of parody, if I remember correctly, in prose form. But good stuff. I liked it. Now we're back to nonfiction. I Had a Hammer, the Hank Aaron story by Hank Aaron and Lonnie Wheeler, it looks like. Of course, this is the biography / autobiography of Hank Aaron. Baseball's great Hank Aaron. And I'm not a huge sports fan, but I do find the life stories of people, some people anyway, to be interesting. And I don't know, just something I picked up to read, and it was interesting. There's going to be another in a few weeks for the videos, few months in the list, another sports autobiography / biography. But the Hank Aaron story, I Had a Hammer. It's pretty interesting. All right, then we're back to fiction. The Monkey's Raincoat by Robert Crace. This is the first Elvis Cole novel. And in it, a woman named Ellen comes to Elvis, says her husband and her son are missing. Elvis takes the case, and we dive into hard-boiled private eye stuff. And we've got Joe Pike, Elvis's partner. And I always compare Joe Pike to Hawk from the Spencer series. And there's two differences story-wise. In the Spencer books, Hawk is around, and he'll help Spencer, but there's no official partnership. And Hawk isn't introduced until 4 or 5 books into the series. Whereas with these, Joe Pike is introduced in the first book, and he is officially Elvis Cole's partner in the private detective agency. Other than that, he's very Hawk-like. But yeah, so this is, as I said, the first Elvis Cole book, and the last time I talked about an Elvis Cole, which was, I don't know, a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago in video time, I mentioned that the earlier books I felt the writing was a little rough, and he eventually found his style. So this being the first one, I think, if I recall correctly, I felt the writing was a little rough. But then I'm comparing it to Robert B. Parker, and I mean, that writing is smooth. But anyway, let's move on to the only book that I currently have, and that is Plunder Squad by Richard Stark. It is a Parker novel, and you can see that picture frame there. So this deals with an art heist. And Parker, it's been a while since I've read this. Apparently, Parker's invited to go on a job, but it looks like a bunch of amateurs, so he walks away, doesn't take it, and then somehow gets involved in this getting rid of stolen paintings, something, trying to unload a truck of paintings. Anyway, I mean, it's a Parker book. It's gonna be good. One of these days, I'm gonna start reading through the series from the beginning, giving you reviews someday. But here you go. And this is about the middle of the series, I'd say. So, yeah. Just pick up and read some Richard Stark. It's good stuff. All right, next up, Tomorrow's Crimes by Donald E. Westlake. So, just in case there's anybody who doesn't know, Donald E. Westlake and Richard Stark are the same person. Richard Stark is the name that Mr. Westlake used to write the Parker novels. And maybe a couple other things, but generally the Parker novels. It's supposed to be darker stuff for the Richard Stark pseudonym. And then Donald E. Westlake wrote lighter, a lot of really lighthearted stuff, and then some just not quite as dark as the Richard Stark stuff. But anyway, Tomorrow's Crimes is a collection of science fiction mystery stories. One is novella length, and then 8 other just short stories, all set in the future. And again, it's Donald D. Westlake, great writer, and I like the idea of mysteries in the future. Because again, you're mashing genres, your mystery genre, your crime genre, and science fiction. So I dig it. Good stuff. This is a book I might have to search for and pick up again. All right, we're back to nonfiction. And so, One Writer's Beginnings by Eudora Welty. Again, a memoir. And essentially it's just Eudora Welty talking about her childhood, her life, growing up, and how it affected her writing. So, grew up in the South, and so there's a lot about the relationships between white people and black people, and the times that she grew up, and so how it not only shaped her as a person, but informed her writing. Very, very interesting book. Then the penultimate book, The Time of Transference by Alan Dean Foster. At the time, this was the final Spellsinger novel. I don't know if there are more after this. Because on Amazon, sometimes when you look things up, if it's part of a series, it will say like 6 of 8. And I swear I saw that for a second. But then everything else I read said this was the last Spellsinger book. So I don't know if you wrote a couple more after this. But anyway, at the time of this reading, it was the final Spellsinger book. John Tom, guy from Earth, ended up in this fantasy world, learned that his musician, learned that his singing, when he used this duar, I don't know how you say it, D-U-A-R, his singing and playing would create magic. But his instrument breaks, and so he needs to find someone who can fix it. And he goes off on an adventure, as he always does. And I believe that by the end of the book, he finds a way back to Earth, and of course has to decide, do I want to go back to Earth? Do I want to stay here with my friends and where I have magical powers and stuff? And I'll tell you what, I do not remember what choice he makes. So there you go. But I enjoyed these books, this whole series, the Spellsinger series. I liked Alan Dean Foster's writing. He might be best known as an author of tons of media tie-in novels. Most particularly, I believe the first 3, at least, Alien novelizations. So Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3. But he's done tons. And then finally, I reverted back to my childhood, and the last book I read in May of 1991 was Danny Dunn and the Swamp Monster by J. Williams and Raymond Abrashkin? Something. So this was part of the Danny Dunn series. Danny Dunn was a kid. I don't remember if he was a young teenager. Probably. And his mother, single parent, worked for this scientist. And he was just general scientist. So kind of think Marty McFly and Doc Brown, because Danny is always getting into wacky adventures with the scientist and Danny's friends. And in this case, this biologist comes to the professor, and they end up all going on this adventure to Africa, where they're searching for this swamp monster. And, it's a young adult, not even a kid's book, I guess. Not sure where young adult falls, what the ages are for something called young adult and what's children, but this is early teens, very simple. So I'm going to say it's a kid's book. But I used to love them when I was a kid, and must have stumbled across across a copy somewhere, because I obviously picked it up and read it again. I do that on occasion. You'll see that as we go through the years and years of the things that I've read. You'll see some kid stuff popping up. We've already had that with the Winnie the Pooh books. Anyway, that's it for May of 1991. A very eclectic mix, if I do say so myself. No horror here, but fantasy, crime, science fiction, PI stuff, detective stuff, a parody, some nonfiction, which are, let's see, memoir, autobiography, sort of biography of a fictional character, and then a memoirish kind of thing. So, yeah. And we're going to get, well, okay, I'm looking ahead to the next month, and what we're going to see is I discovered a new author, new to me, and started reading a ton of that author's stuff. So it's sort of book, then book by that author, then a different book, then a book. Actually, there's a couple in a row. Book by that author. Yeah, there's a whole bunch in a row by the same author, but then some other stuff mixed in a little bit. And then, yeah, just even looking a bunch of months ahead, this particular author pops up a lot. But that's what happens when I find someone new that I want to read, and they have a ton of stuff I haven't read. Anyway, so there you go. Do I have a question for this video? I'm looking at the books that I read. You're getting a lot of this weird angle of me because I keep looking over at my list. I'll put it in front of me now, and you can just look at me looking down. You can see my shiny bald spot. How about this? I think I may have asked this before, but if I have, I'm asking it again. Are you a fan of mixed genres? I'm almost certain I've asked this before. Because we had the science fiction crime stories, I'll ask it again. And I'm sure I've talked about this because I know I've mentioned I love horror westerns. Probably my favorite mashup of genres. But I love science fiction mysteries. Isaac Asimov had the Robot series with Robots of Dawn, and the other ones with a human cop and his robot partner, and those are great. I can't see them right now, and I can't remember the author off the top of my head, but I have some books about a robot private detective. There's a series. Man, my brain is failing me. I could look through the list, but this has already gone on long enough. There's another series of a private detective set in the future. And he's, private detectives are generally, these noirish detectives are, curmudgeonly and whatever. And so it's, there's flying cars, but he wants to drive it himself. Automated flying cars. He's got to drive it himself, and he prefers to drive on the roads than fly. And the Plutonium Blonde, I think, is the first one in that series. They're really good, great pulp covers, good books. So off the top of my head, those are the two kinds of mashups that I can think of. But so I enjoy it. I mean, if it's peanut butter and chocolate, two things I love, put them together. I was going to say, how can it be bad? But, if it's bad writing. But as long as you've got a good author that's doing it, then, yeah, I enjoy it. So, do you like mashups, and what are your favorites? That's my question, or questions. All right, that's all I've got. If you have any comments or questions, put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is EricSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH5757. That's all I've got for you this time, so until next time, read more books.